Hello U8, welcome to the fourth video on developing BrickBreaker in Scratch. Now so far what you should have hopefully completed is setting up your account, drawing your sprites, positioning your sprites on the stage, and also you would have either chosen between the mouse controlling the paddle or using the left or right arrows. Now I've decided in my game to use the left and right arrows just because I think it's a little bit more immersive and a little bit more of a realistic experience of how the actual game would be played. So in this video we need to develop these scripts that will allow the ball to move around the screen and bounce off of the paddle. To demonstrate, I've got my example here. Now what you will also do towards the end of the video, and this is a bit of a challenge for those students who are making really good progress, most games use variables. Now variables are containers of data that can change. So you may have speed as a variable that can change throughout the course of the game. You may have time, you may also have score. Now what this speed variable does, it controls the speed in which the ball moves. So you can see on the top here, I've set the ball speed to 10, and this can change. I can make it go faster or I can make it go slower. So to demonstrate, the ball starts in this position and bounces off the paddle. Now what actually happens when it touches the paddle? You can hear a pop and the ball will bounce off, going back in the opposite direction. In order to do this, we need to use a lot of different techniques. We need to use loops, we need to use random numbers, and we also need to use if statements. Now to demonstrate the ball speed variable working, increasing the scroller towards the right rapidly increases the speed in which the ball moves. So like I said, towards the end of the video, incorporating a speed variable will make your game a lot more realistic and far more challenging for the user. So how do we actually get that to work? Now what is the first script we need to use? When green flag clicked. So we know we need to use it when the green flag is clicked for the ball. What is the first thing that should happen? Now you should notice that the ball starts somewhere here. So the ball will always start here. So the ball starts, so you would have go to X and Y. So you need to tell the ball where to go. What are the coordinates? Remember the coordinates? X goes across, Y is up and down, horizontal, vertical. Then you should also notice that the ball waits. It doesn't actually go down straight away because we want to give the user a bit of time. Then it goes down. Yeah, to demonstrate that again, press on the green flag, go to that position, and it waits. So it should wait for a decent amount of time. How much time is completely up to you. It's your game. So it should wait. Then after that is when we actually start making the ball move. And this is where it gets interesting. So what happens is we will create a loop which is forever because it always needs to happen. It doesn't just happen once, it keeps going over and over and over again. Forever. Now inside this loop we are going to have an if statement. If touching paddle. Now if it touches the paddle, what needs to happen? The ball needs to bounce off in the opposite direction. Now this is where the random number comes into it. So if we look here at a paddle here, this is the paddle, this is the ball coming down. It's about to touch the paddle. We want to create a random number that will either make the paddle go in this direction or in this direction. Otherwise what could happen is the ball will just bounce up and down in the same direction. We don't want that. We want the paddle to make the ball reflect in a random number, so it could go anywhere between this value and this max value. Anywhere in between there it could bounce off. It could bounce off here, it could bounce off here, here, here. So let's make a start. To add a bit of challenge to this task, I am not going to show you how to put your scripts together, but what I will show you is which scripts you need and you need to attempt to put the scripts in the correct order. So the first thing we need to do is set the restrictions in terms of how the ball will rotate. So if you go over to, oopsie daisies, let's go back. If you go over to the right hand side, you will see direction just here. Now if you click on direction, just to reiterate, the ball will either bounce between this value, I'd say, so between maybe 58, and it could also bounce anywhere between 58 and minus 62, for example. So any of these values, it could bounce back and go in the opposite direction. What we need to do is make sure that the ball faces down. First of all, we can program this ourselves. And you want to make sure that the ball does not go all the way around. It doesn't rotate that way. We want to suggest and limit it to left and right. Okay, so make sure you've done that. So I'm going to now collect a random selection of scripts that I want you to try and put together in the right order. Now I'll give you a bit of a head start. When the green flag is clicked, it should be first. Then we also need a wait somewhere in there. We also need a motion, because we need a motion that will tell the object where to go. Then we need a loop, because this is something that happens forever. Okay, it keeps happening over and over and over again. The ball will go down, it will wait, it will loop, it will reflect. Okay, this will always happen. So we also need a point in direction. This just makes sure that the ball goes in the right direction at the start. You can click 90 and make it go down. Now we also need a sensing, because we are sensing whether or not the ball has touched the paddle. So you can go over to the left hand side and find if touching. Now we are not going to use if touching the mouse pointer. You can change that, and if you've named your items correctly, paddle should appear here. Now we also need an if statement, because we need to check if we are touching the paddle. Now what happens when we touch the paddle? The ball should bounce back in the opposite direction. So we need to go and get a motion. Motion, we would need a point in direction, another point in direction, but this time it's not going to be 90. It's going to be a random number between here and here. We can use an operator. Now this is a fantastic script. This pick random will allow you to enter random numbers essentially. So you could type in positive and negative numbers. So it's going to point in direction between, if you remember, anywhere between here, which is 62, and here, which is minus 73, for example. You can type in whichever values you want. Now what we also need to tell the ball to move. And this will be a constant move. It will always be moving a certain amount of steps. Now the last thing we need, if it's on the edge, it needs to bounce back. And you can just put this somewhere. So what I'd like you to do, you can of course add extra scripts, experiment how you want. I would like you to pause the video now, and I want you to try to put these scripts in the right order, so that when the green flag is clicked, the ball points in direction of 180, which is down. It goes to its correct position, it waits, it loops, it detects whether or not we've touched the paddle, and if we have touched the paddle, it should bounce back in the opposite direction. Pause the video now. Okay, hopefully you've all paused the video. Some of you would have been made some mistakes, some of you hopefully would have succeeded. Now I'm going to go through these steps. So when the green flag is clicked, we want to go to a certain location. Now the location I would like my ball to start is right dead in the center, which is x0, and y we'll put as 162. Then I would like my ball to wait just 1 second giving the user enough time to position their paddle and get ready for the game. We also want the ball to point in direction of down. So this will happen every time we press the green flag. The ball will start at the top, right in the middle, it will wait 1 second, it will point in direction of 180. Now this is where we need to start using our loop. So we use it forever. Now this will always happen. Forever, and the first thing we'll have is an if statement. Forever if touching paddle, point in direction, sorry. And now I would like mine to go anywhere from this number, which is minus 74. As I say, we'll do minus 70, and here we'll do 70. These values may work, they may not work. We can of course test these and correct our numbers if we need to. Now outside of the if statement, underneath here is where we have our move 10 steps and then if on edge bounce. So let's see if this works. Good, the ball's going up and down, it's bouncing off of the edge, which is fantastic. I'm going to now position my paddle and it bounces. If you're able to do that, I'm very impressed. Very, very, very impressed. Now what you also need to do is change your speed. 10 may be too slow, it may be too fast. You can decide what your speed is. Let's see what happens when I type in 20. It goes really quickly. Now over the course of the game, your ball may decide to change. For example, if you touched a special sprite, or if the user has another special sprite that may even slow the ball down. So you could create different advantages or disadvantages in the game, so little challenges that you could add to your game that will make the ball go faster or slower. Now to do that, we need to start using variables. Now to create your own variables, very simple, and instead of using this number 20, which we will not be able to change over the course of the game, you could use a variable. So to do that, on the left hand side, go to variables. Now I have already created one called ball speed, but we can create another one. Make a variable speed, we'll call this one. Okay. So you can see on the left hand side we have ball speed or we have speed. We have so many different variables to choose from now. What you need to try and figure out is how could you set the speed to a certain value at the start of the game? How could you make the object move that certain amount of steps? Now, this is very simple. I'm not going to show you it all, but you can drag these objects and place them here. We can add set speed to whatever value you'd like. Set yourself a challenge. Try to add speed to your game, and that will allow the user to be more challenged later down the line when we add special sprites. Any questions, please of course just email your teacher. Good luck, and don't forget to save your work. In the next video, we are going to start developing our bricks that the ball will eventually either collide into and the bricks will disappear, or we will create special bricks that will make the ball bounce back a lot faster than it normally would.